Whoa! Welcome to the Treasure Tree Therapy Planters Podcast. I'm your host, Master Cheeze. You're in for a good one, as always. We're going to start off again. We're going to speak a little bit about Taylor University. Then we're going to progress to wait for the rest of the next segment. Then we're going to discuss the Chicago Bears. Yes, they are next up, full effect, doing some big things. But then after that, we're going to speak a little bit about some fantasy football. Got some injuries coming up this week. And then we're going to sprinkle a little bit of Salt Bay NBA. Talk about Paul George, Lonzo Ball, and Kawhi Leonard. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. Welcome back to the Treasure Tree Therapy Planners Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Master Cheeze. All right, we're going to start off with Taylor University. Again, small school in Opulent, Indiana. Right now, they're coming off of a bye week. They did have a great win against St. Francis of Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they're looking to go up against Indiana Wesleyan. Indiana Wesleyan ranks third in the nation, and Taylor University has not been able to beat them so far throughout their school's history. It'll be a tough challenge for Taylor University, but they're coming off a bye week. They're looking to be fresh and looking to upset the nation. Look out. We'll see what they do. They have the game scheduled for this Saturday at 4 p.m. Don't miss it. Good luck to you boys. Next, we're going to transpire. We're going to move to, you already know what time it is. It's time. Yes. Prime time, and the Colorado Buffaloes are still back at it again, doing things that they should not be doing. Unfortunately, they came up short this past weekend. Colorado Buffaloes lost this weekend to Kansas State by the score of 31-28. A very good game, a very close game, and it came down to the very last play on the very last drive. Kansas State, they ranked 17th in the nation. This was a tough battle and ultimately came down to the wire. Colorado was able to go up early, and this is the opportunity for them to prove and show that they can compete against those top teams in the NCAA. Unfortunately, Colorado Buffalo's defense was unable to stop and slow down the run offense from the Kansas State. Looking at the stats here, Kansas State was able to go 189 yards on a rush on the ground, and Colorado, unfortunately, was only able to put up negative 29 rushing yards. That is a very big telling stat when it comes to the overall game. If you can't run the ball, most likely you're going to lose the game. Good thing this isn't fantasy and it's not Travis Etienne. Negative points never result in positivity. Shout out to you, betting owners. Serious note, Colorado Buffaloes were able to go get a score late in the fourth and put themselves up. But then Kansas State quickly responded back with a touchdown. It came down to the last drive on the fourth down. Shedeur Sanders looks to throw a deep ball down the right sideline, and it falls incomplete. Looking at a couple plays here late in the fourth, you could play with the idea that they kind of got too excited to score, leaving Kansas State opportunity to respond. Or you can also look at the last play drive on the pass down the sideline. You could argue that there was a pass interference. Now, I don't know why they didn't throw the flag. It looks pretty obvious that there was contact in the throw, but nonetheless, it comes down to wins and losses, and they just did not get the job done. I want to focus on Shedeur Sanders, though. Shedeur still had a very good game and showing that he is an NFL quarterback. Shedeur went 34 for 40 for 388 yards in the air. In addition to that, he had 3 touchdowns and he had 1 interception. The interception that he had was a tough interception to watch in the fourth. The second half of the game, your leading quarterback is doing what he does, but that pick kind of cost them points on a very important drive. The game got tight down the stretch, and Colorado was unable to come out on top. But Shedeur is still proving that he is an NFL quarterback, NFL talent. He had some great throws. He put some great throws right in the pocket of his receivers. Unfortunately, on that fourth down play, one could argue that they could have probably went with something a little bit more to sustain the drive, but they took a shot down the right sideline And it should have been a pass interference. They didn't call it. A lot of contact on the play, but unfortunately, they come up short, and that's an L for the books. This is an opportunity. Shedeur could have really got more into the Heisman category with a nice big victory against a ranked opponent, but now they just got to move forward. In the next coming weeks, they have to play up against Arizona. They don't have any ranked opponents so far in the schedule, and they're still looking to become bowl eligible. They need 6 victories to get there, and best of luck to those guys as they look to compete for the rest of the season. And we're going to move forward from prime time to... One second, I got to take these off. The Chicago Bears. Yes. The Chicago Bears were able to get a victory with Tea Crumpets in London this past weekend. Sorry, my accent isn't the best, but sue me. I'm a lawyer. Chicago Bears were able to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars in London by the score of 35-16. The Chicago Bears were able to dominate on both sides of the ball. Defense and offense came to play. Jacksonville Jaguars aren't a really good team, but the Bears showed that they don't belong on the same field with each other. It is encouraging to see that the defense held them to 2 touchdowns, come up with the victory. We're going to focus on Caleb Williams here, which is the #1 draft pick for the Chicago Bears. It's been a story all year. Caleb Williams had a really good game. In fact, they need to start calling him Caleb the Thrill Williams. You know what I mean? Not yet? Okay, cool. But anyway, Caleb Williams was able to go 23 for 29 for 226 yards. Most importantly, the reason why I think he should be called Caleb the Thrill Williams is because he came out with 4 touchdowns. And this is huge, again, with your quarterback able to control the game, being able to put your team up and just hold the lead with a great defense that the Bears have. Now, Caleb Williams still needs to improve on his conditioning with the reads that he's getting, but it's nice to see that the Bears are going to go into a bye this upcoming week. But after the bye, they have to battle up against the Washington Commanders. I'll discuss more about this rivalry coming up on the next podcast. But moving forward, the Bears on the driver's seat. They're looking good. They got some tough games coming up, but hopefully they can heal up coming off a bye week and show that they can be a wild card team going to the rest of the season. All right, it's the time of the segment, and the segment of the time where we're going to talk about fantasy football. We're looking at a couple guys right now. Hello?
Hello, good sir. Your fantasy team sucks. Sincerely, Fantasy Troll.
All right, looking at a couple entries coming into fantasy. Nick Chubbs, running back for the Cleveland Browns, is expected to make his debut this weekend. It said that he's been able to practice limited last week, but he should be back on the field, and they're going to look to give him a couple reps. This is encouraging for the Cleveland Browns as they've struggled, and in addition, they have also traded away Amari Cooper, one of their star receivers. The Browns are looking, and their season is spiraling downward, and hopefully Nick Chubbs can resurrect their playoff hopes and put them in the opportunity to go 500 later on the season. Now, Nick Chubbs is somebody I've been speaking for the last year. He hasn't played football in over a year, and he's going to look to battle and come back and play some good football coming off the knee injury. Now, with these knee injuries, as I've spoken before, is that the body does need to get strong, but the nervous system also has to accept the strength that it has. Now, with Nick Chubbs, he is a tank. He lifts a lot of weights. He works out very religiously. He puts the effort in, and I could see him bouncing back this year, having a good year. The most important thing is about that knee swelling. Coming back off an injury, it's typical that the knee is going to swell because it's getting used to being used a little bit more. So they have to monitor that. I spoke previous on my other podcast about looking to bring him around the week of the Chargers game. That way they have a bye week. But they bring him a little bit earlier. They'll play Baltimore the following week. We'll see if they sit him out that week or if the knee swells in response. That's something we'll have to maintain and monitor. But welcome back, Nick Chubbs. Good luck to you. And next person we're going to look at is Jonathan Taylor. Now, I'm going to have Master Cheeze again speak to y'all about these injuries as he's always had. You going to take care of it? I got it from here. Thank you, Master Cheeze. All right, Master Cheeze here. We're going to speak about Jonathan Taylor, running back for the Indianapolis Colts. He's been dealing with an ankle injury again. It looks like he's going to be out again this upcoming weekend. Looking at Jonathan Taylor's ankle, typically around 3 to 4 weeks is high ankle sprains. 2 typically around 4 to 6 weeks. High ankle sprains take some time to heal. It looks like they're really being patient with this injury. It's something he's been dealing with last year and the previous years, but look out for him to get some more rest as he gears up for the rest of the season. Again, with these injuries, we really got to look at the neurological system. That way we can reduce these injuries reoccurring down the line. Good luck to Jonathan Taylor as he continues to heal up. And another person that's popping on the podcast now is Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is trending that he's not playing this weekend. They're coming off a bye. He has a hamstring injury. Aaron Jones is a running back for the Minnesota Vikings. In the previous years when he was playing with the Green Bay Packers, he also had to sit out last year for a prolonged period of time due to the hamstring injury. Now with this hamstring injury, it looks like it's going to take him some time to really gear up, especially seeing as he's coming off of a bye week. For them to sit him out for about another 4 to 6 weeks with a hamstring injury. That's something that's very delicate. And again, as I spoke with Nico Collins, who is currently on IR, you really got to get some time for that hamstring to heal up, because you can let it heal, but it also has to be able to handle running upwards of 19 to 20 miles per hour. So good luck to Aaron Jones, and good luck to your fantasy team, especially if you have Travis Etienne. Okay, moving forward, we're going to talk about a little Salt Bay NBA again, upcoming. Last year we spoke. Lastly, we had the expert Jason Davis on the podcast. We're going to look to get him here, but we're going to talk about a couple things. Big news coming out of Chicago. Lonzo Ball has made his return on the NBA basketball court.
It's great and exciting to see him make it back. Looking at the notes here, Lonzo Ball has not been able to play basketball for the Bulls since January 14th, 2002. And this is huge for him. They were even looking at earlier saying that he may not be able to return to the court. So positive. He was able to drop 10 points in the preseason game. Lonzo Ball is a guy I discussed pretty many years about his injury with the meniscus tears. And that's a guy who also will benefit from neurological interventions. Majority of these athletes who do get hurt, they get strong and they strengthen themselves up, but the nervous system and the neurological system has to improve, and it also has to be addressed. Lonzo Ball, he'll have a long season. The knee might swell up a couple times, but he's trending in the right direction, and that's positive news. Good luck to Lonzo Ball. We're going to look at a couple more injuries here. We're going to look at Paul George. He is a guard for the Philadelphia 76ers. He previously was playing for the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, this is a freak play. Just watch the review. Your discretion is advised. The knee kind of gives out a little bit unexpectedly as he's playing defense. And that's kind of tough to see. Looking at the report, it says that there is no structural damage right now. He has a bone bruise going on. That's positive news, because that injury could have resulted in something catastrophic, an ACL or a PCL tear. It seems like he has enough strength in that knee to keep it from buckling, but Paul George has been dealing with this knee injury for a while. I believe he hyperextended his knee before in the playoffs, or before the playoffs against the Thunder, and that had him sit out a couple games, and now he's just reactivated already early in a preseason game. This is not good news for the Philadelphia 76ers. It's also not good news for Paul George. Now, Paul George is somebody I've been watching for a very, very long time. And I think what's attributing to his hyperextension is what he does on his podcast. I'm going to have you watch a little bit of this clip and let me know what you see.
And put them in a two-man game, and what you can see.
Yeah. Have you played against in like just being introverted? And so as
you may not see much, but from a therapist perspective, when I look at this, Paul George has been doing this for many months and many years since he's been on his podcast. Having that left leg hyperextended and putting that right leg over it is encouraging a lot of laxity to happen in the knee joint. Now, these are my opinions as Master Cheeze, but I'm going to bring in an expert, a special guest, a specialist, Doctorate of Physical Therapist, Bryan O. I'm gonna have him on the show for a quick second. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. What's goody?
Okay, cool. Can you further explain about what are you seeing, or what I'm trying to say about the knee and then the laxity that occurs with something happening right here? What you think, or your professional opinion or your professional thoughts about something like this happening to an athlete like Paul George early in the season?
Well, first and foremost, the news came back that there was no major structural damage, which is always good news to hear. You never really want to see a player get hurt. You never really want to wish injury on anybody. So it's good to see that there was no structural damage, and it looks like he'll be reevaluated after 1 week. So that's good news for him. But I think it's important to note, he does a podcast, and frequently during the podcast, he'll kind of sit with his left leg straight, his right leg crossed over his left leg, and it'll put that knee in its position of hyperextension. So if you think about normal extension, if this is the thigh bone and this is the lower leg shin bone, and the knee is right in the middle, you want that knee when it's straight to kind of be just straight, but when you go into a position of hyperextension, now you get into a position where, the joint is like that. And that can be problematic. That puts a lot of strain on your ligaments. Ligaments are structures that connect bone to bone, and they help to really stabilize the knee. So when people talk about blew my knee out and different things like that, they typically are referring to damaging one of those ligaments, which makes the knee unstable. So by him sitting in that position, it's putting a lot of strain, and it's making those ligaments what we call lax. So instead of them being really stiff to stabilize that knee, now they start to, if you imagine, almost kind of stretch out a bit to where now they allow a little bit more play in the knee joint, which can be problematic because it forces your body to have a little bit more range of motion that it has to control and it has to protect. And if you don't have the muscular activation in those same extreme ranges of motion, then that can really put you at risk for injury. The primary function of our muscles is to slow us down and to protect us. So not having that protective mechanism of those muscles being able to absorb that force just because he's in this extreme range of motion that the muscles may not be ready for can be problematic, and it can also put more strain on those ligaments. So when we think of injuries, we think of, okay, I had this freak injury where, I stepped the wrong way and hyperextended my knee, or I strained my back picking something off the ground. And I've heard a lot of crazy things where people are like, oh, I was brushing my hair and my back started to spasm. But a lot of times, it's small micro traumas before that main event that kind of lead up to that injury. So I think it's always important to look at these movement patterns, go to physical therapy, get a movement assessment, kind of rule out some of this dysfunction. That way, you can put yourself less at risk for injury and for these overuse or these injuries that come from, taking these repeated postures and these repeated movements that show up to play later in life or later in sport. So I think that is something that's important to point out. Hopefully he'll get that corrected. He'll get some good rehab, and he'll have a great season this year.
Those words from the expert himself. Now, what I'm speaking about these injuries is that they're going to keep reoccurring. One thing, if you don't have the strength there, and secondly, if you don't repair the nervous system to handle what's going on. Now, Paul George is already experiencing injury in the preseason game of this year. That's too early. He has 80 plus games left, and it's going to be a rough season if these injuries start to add up. We'll look out for him in the rest of the season. Good luck to Paul George. And last but not least, Kawhi Leonard plays for the Los Angeles Clippers. Two-time Finals MVP, has had a hard time getting back from injury. He's had some knee swelling. He's sit out multiple playoff games. He's had to sit out many games. Last year, he did a really good job of being able to play over 60 games in the regular season, but unfortunately, he was unable to finish the season and play throughout the playoffs. He had knee swelling. He's been dealing with knee swelling for the rest of the offseason, it appears, and he also had to go get a small surgery on the knee as well. Now, looking at this, I've been speaking about Kawhi for a very long time. I've emailed the Los Angeles Clippers front office, and no one's really gotten back to me. This is an injury I think that needs to be looked at with additional eyes. I know they're doing their best. They have state-of-the-art equipment, but it seems that just a little bit extra help would help these guys. Kawhi Leonard's knee swells up. Of course, if you really understand injuries, when you're playing basketball, you're coming off an ACL tear, you're playing at a very high level, and you're also pushing the body at a very high level. The knee is going to swell up. That's the nature of the body. The body's going to produce an inflammation, That way it can handle it, repair itself, and be able to take on the next couple games. So for Kawhi Leonard, they have to do a better job of trying to be delicate to the tendon, be delicate to the knee, and put it in a situation where it can continue to grow and get better. Now, many times it takes about a couple years for cartilage and tendons to improve where they're not stiffening up and swelling as much. But there are a lot of other modalities one can add. Additionally, dry needling, hot cold, and I believe that neurological interventions will greatly improve Kawhi Leonard's outcomes. Kawhi Leonard is battling injuries and he works very hard. He's lifting a lot of weights, he's doing his rehab, but the knees continue to swell up. Why do you think that is? I'll explain to you why that is on the next episode of the Treasure Tree Therapy Plans podcast. We're going to wrap this up. If you like what you saw today, like, share, subscribe. We're going to have more coming up in the next week. We will discuss about Kawhi Leonard extensively in the next episode, but until then, we'll continue to plant seeds today for future generation success. See you on the next one.
This is the opportunity for the program to show and demonstrate that they could compete up. What's going on?